This exhausted black young only wanted to make it home after another brutal night shift, his body aching and his stomach empty. But he stopped cold when he heard the trembling voice of a nearly blind elderly woman, lost and terrified in a dark parking garage while strangers walked past without a glance. Right away the young man stepped forward, steadied her shaking hands and guided her safely home. That single act of quiet kindness would ignite a chain of events so powerful it would change both their lives forever. Atlanta's warehouse district never slept, but it never truly woke up either. By 11 at night the streets hummed with a different kind of energy, the kind that came from diesel engines idling outside loading docks, from forklifts beeping in reverse, from the distant clang of metal gates rolling down over shop fronts. Flickering streetlights cast uneven shadows across cracked pavement, steam rose from manhole covers like tired sighs. The buildings stood tall and indifferent, witnesses to decades of people working jobs the world rarely noticed. And moving through this landscape, backpack slung over one shoulder, was 19-year-old Marcus Webb. He wasn't big, though he'd grown taller this past year. He wasn't loud, though his voice carried weight when he chose to use it. He moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd learned early that survival meant staying aware, staying sharp, staying one step ahead of trouble. Tonight, like most nights, he was exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that settled into your bones after stacking boxes for 6 hours straight, after skipping dinner because the breakroom vending machine ate your last $3, after walking 2 miles in worn-out sneakers because the bus didn't run this route past 10. He dropped out of school over a year ago. Not because he wanted to, not because he couldn't handle the work, but because his grandmother, the woman who raised him after his mother disappeared into addiction and his father into prison, needed help paying rent, needed help buying her medications, needed help just surviving in a city that didn't care much about elderly black women living on fixed incomes. So Marcus worked. He worked the loading dock at a distribution center 3 nights a week. He delivered food orders on his beat-up bicycle 2 other nights. And on weekends he cleaned out storage units for a property management company that paid cash under the table. He was tired, always tired, but he kept moving because that's what you did when quitting wasn't an option. Tonight he'd just finished his shift at the distribution center. His hands ached, his shoulders burned, his stomach growled with a hunger he'd learned to ignore. He cut through the back streets, avoiding the main roads where cops might stop someone who looked like him, someone walking alone after midnight. That's when he heard it. A voice, thin, shaky, afraid. Please, I don't know where. Marcus stopped walking. His first instinct, the instinct honed by years of living in neighborhoods where minding your business kept you safe, told him to keep moving. Whatever was happening, it wasn't his problem. He had enough problems, but something in that voice pulled at him. It wasn't the words, it was the sound beneath them. Vulnerability, confusion. The kind of helplessness that reminded him of his grandmother when she couldn't remember where she'd put her glasses, when the world suddenly felt too big and too confusing. Marcus turned toward the sound. The voice came from the entrance of a parking garage, one of those dimly lit concrete structures that always felt vaguely threatening even in daylight. At night it looked like the kind of place people avoided unless they had no choice. He hesitated at the entrance, peering into the shadows. That's when he saw her. An elderly white woman stood beside a luxury car, something sleek and expensive that didn't belong in this part of town. She clutched her purse with both hands, turning her head slowly from side to side like she was trying to recognize her surroundings and failing. Even from 20 feet away, Marcus could see something was wrong. Her movements were too uncertain, her posture too stiff, her eyes seemed to look past things instead of at them. A security guard sat in a booth near the garage exit, feet propped up, eyes glued to his phone. He glanced at the woman once, then looked away. Not his problem. Marcus watched 2 other people walk past her, a man in a business suit talking loudly into his phone, a woman in scrubs hurrying toward her car. Both saw her. Both kept walking. The old woman turned in a slow circle, and her voice rose slightly, not loud, just edged with panic. I can't see which one is. She reached toward the car beside her, fingers brushing the door handle, then pulled back as if uncertain it was the right vehicle. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He knew that feeling. Knew what it was like when the world stopped making sense, when you couldn't trust your own perceptions, when asking for help felt like admitting defeat. He took a step forward, then another. His tired feet carried him across the garage floor, past oil stains and cigarette butts, past the security guard who still didn't look up. He stopped a few feet from the woman. "Ma'am," he said softly. She turned sharply toward his voice, eyes wide but unfocused. "Yes, who's there? Are you okay?" The woman's shoulders sagged slightly, relief and embarrassment mixing in her posture. I'm trying to find my car. I know it's here, I parked it here, but I can't see clearly enough to." She trailed off, hand tightening on her purse. Marcus glanced at the sleek black sedan she'd been standing beside. "Is this your car?" "I think so, but I can't see the license plate. I can't be sure." Marcus moved closer, crouching slightly to read the plate. "This one ends in 732. "Yes." The woman's face lit up with relief. "That's it. That's mine." He stood. "Do you have your keys?" She held up a key fob with trembling fingers. "I have them, but I can't. The buttons are too small. I can't see which one opens the door." Marcus gently took the key fob. "This one," he said, pressing the unlock button. The car chirped. The locks clicked open. The woman exhaled a long shaky breath. Thank you so much." Marcus opened the driver's side door for her. Should you be driving right now?" The question hung in the air. The woman paused, one hand on the doorframe. For a long moment she didn't answer. Then quietly, "Probably not." Marcus glanced toward the security booth. Still useless. He looked back at the woman, really seeing her now. Expensive coat, diamond earrings, the kind of understated wealth that didn't need to announce itself. But also clouded eyes, trembling hands, a vulnerability that made all that wealth irrelevant. "Where do you need to go?" he asked. "Home. Just home. It's not far." Marcus made a decision he'd probably regret. "I'll drive you." The woman's head turned sharply. "What? I'll drive you home? You shouldn't be driving if you can't see clearly. I couldn't possibly ask you to." "You didn't ask. I'm offering." She hesitated, uncertainty crossing her face. "I don't even know you." "My name's Marcus Webb, and you're right, you don't know me, but I'm not gonna let you drive into traffic when you can't see straight." Something in his voice, the firmness mixed with gentleness, seemed to reach her. She nodded slowly. "My name is Eleanor Hartwell." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Hartwell," Marcus said. "Now let's get you home safe." Marcus helped Eleanor into the passenger seat, then walked around to the driver's side. The interior of the car was like stepping into another world. Soft leather, polished wood trim, that new car smell that probably cost more than his entire monthly income. He adjusted the seat, gripped the steering wheel that felt almost too nice to touch, and started the engine. It purred to life, smooth, quiet, expensive. Eleanor gave him directions in a soft voice, and Marcus guided the car out of the parking garage, past the security guard who never once looked up from his phone. As they pulled onto the street, Eleanor turned her head toward him. "Why did you help me?" Marcus kept his eyes on the road. "Because you needed help, but you don't know me, didn't need to." She was quiet for a moment. "Then most people walked right past me." "I know, they saw me struggling, and they just kept walking." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Yeah, that happens." He knew it better than she probably realized, knew what it felt like to be invisible, to need help and have people look through you like you weren't there. They drove in silence for a few blocks. The city lights blurred past. Eleanor's hands gradually stopped trembling. Finally, she spoke again. "You have a kind voice." Marcus glanced at her. "Thanks, and kind hands. The way you helped me into the car, you were very gentle." He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Eleanor directed him through quieter streets, away from the warehouse district, into neighborhoods where the buildings got nicer, the trees got taller, the distance from Marcus's world got wider. Eventually she pointed ahead. "That building there, the tall one with the lights." Marcus pulled up to the entrance of a luxury high-rise, the kind with a doorman and marble floors and elevators that probably had better healthcare than most people. A uniformed doorman hurried out as the car stopped. "Mrs. Hartwell." He opened the passenger door quickly. "We've been worried. You didn't call for the driver." "I know, Thomas," Eleanor said softly. "I thought I could manage. I was wrong." The doorman helped her out of the car, then looked at Marcus with suspicion. "And you are?" He's the young man who saved me from my own stubbornness, Eleanor said firmly. His name is Marcus, and you will treat him with respect. The doorman's expression shifted. Of course, ma'am. Marcus got out of the car, handing the key fob to Thomas. Eleanor turned toward Marcus's voice. Thank you, truly. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped. You're welcome, Marcus said. What do I owe you? Nothing. Please, let me. I didn't do it for money, Marcus said quietly. I did it because it was right. Eleanor stood very still, then she reached into her purse, pulled out a business card, and held it toward him. If you ever need anything, she said, anything at all, call this number. Marcus took the card more out of politeness than any intention to use it. Okay. I mean it, Eleanor said. Good people are rare, Marcus, and you're one of them. He didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded. Thomas helped Eleanor toward the building entrance. She paused once, turning back toward where Marcus stood. Thank you, she said again, and then she disappeared into the gleaming lobby. Marcus stood alone on the sidewalk, expensive business card in his hand, exhaustion settling back over him like a heavy coat. He looked at the card under the streetlight. Eleanor Hartwell, Hartwell Industries, a phone number, nothing else. Marcus shoved it in his pocket and started the long walk home. 3 days passed before Marcus thought about Eleanor Hartwell again. Life returned to its grinding rhythm, warehouse shifts, delivery runs, his grandmother's medical appointments. The business card stayed forgotten in his jacket pocket until the accident. It was a Tuesday. Marcus had just finished a delivery shift, 8 hours on his bicycle, racing through traffic, carrying bags of food to people who barely looked at him when they grabbed their orders. His legs ached, his stomach was empty. Light rain had started falling, making the streets slick and treacherous. He was coasting through an intersection when a car ran the red light. Marcus saw it too late. He yanked the handlebars hard to the right, but not hard enough. The car's bumper clipped his back wheel. The bike flipped. Marcus hit the pavement hard, shoulder first, head bouncing once against the asphalt. His helmet cracked. Pain exploded through his body like lightning. The car didn't stop. It sped away, taillights disappearing into the rain. Marcus lay on the wet ground, unable to move, unable to think through the pain. His bicycle was a twisted wreck beside him. His phone had skittered across the street, screen shattered. People drove past. No one stopped. Rain poured down, mixing with the blood running from a gash on his arm. Marcus tried to sit up, and nearly blacked out. He needed help, but his phone was destroyed. And he was alone. His hand fumbled in his jacket pocket, searching for something, anything. His fingers closed around the business card. A payphone, ancient, graffitied, barely functional, stood outside a closed convenience store 20 feet away. Marcus dragged himself toward it, every movement agony. He pulled himself upright, using the phone booth, vision swimming. He dropped quarters into the slot with shaking hands and dialed the number on the card. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, "This is Eleanor Hartwell, Mrs. Hartwell." Marcus gasped. It's Marcus, the guy who drove you home." A pause, then her voice sharpened with concern. "Marcus, what's wrong?" "I got hit by a car. I'm hurt. I don't know what to do." "Where are you?" He squinted at the street sign through the rain. "Corner of Jefferson and 9th. Stay there. Don't move. Help is coming." "Mrs. Hartwell, I can't pay for." "I said help is coming." "Hold on, Marcus." The line went dead. Marcus slumped against the phone booth, rain streaming down his face, pain radiating through every nerve. He waited. 12 minutes later, though it felt like hours, headlights cut through the rain. Not one vehicle, 3, an ambulance, a sleek black car, and another SUV. Paramedics rushed toward him, professional and efficient. "We've got you, son. Stay still." Eleanor emerged from the black car, leaning on a cane, moving carefully through the rain. A younger woman in business attire walked beside her, guiding her. "Marcus," Eleanor called. "I'm here," he managed. She came closer, stopping just a few feet away. "They're going to take care of you. Everything's been arranged." "I can't afford." "It's handled," Eleanor said firmly. "Let them do their job." The paramedics loaded Marcus onto a stretcher. Pain flared as they moved him, but their hands were gentle, practiced. As they lifted him into the ambulance, Marcus caught one last glimpse of Eleanor standing in the rain, her face tight with worry. The doors closed, and Marcus passed out. Marcus woke in a hospital bed that felt too clean, too soft, too expensive. Afternoon light filtered through blinds. Machines beeped softly. His arm was bandaged. His shoulder throbbed with a deep, persistent ache. A nurse noticed he was awake. "Easy now. Don't try to sit up too fast." "Where am I?" "Emory University Hospital. You've been here 2 days." 2 days. Marcus's heart lurched. "I need to call my grandma. She doesn't know where." "Already taken care of," the nurse said gently. "A Mrs. Hartwell contacted her. Your grandmother's been here every day. She just went home an hour ago to rest." Marcus sank back against the pillows, relief and confusion mixing in equal measure. After the nurse left, Marcus stared at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened. Eleanor had sent an ambulance. She'd brought him to one of the best hospitals in Atlanta. She'd contacted his grandmother. Why? The door opened quietly. Eleanor Hartwell stepped inside, guided by the young woman from the rainy street. She moved carefully, cane tapping softly, eyes scanning the room without actually focusing on anything specific. "Marcus," she said. "I'm here." She smiled, relief evident. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, confused, grateful." Eleanor made her way to the chair beside his bed, and sat carefully. "I'm glad you called me. I didn't know who else to call." "I'm glad," she repeated. "When you helped me that night, in the parking garage, I told you to call if you ever needed anything. I meant it." Marcus swallowed. "I can't pay for this. I'm not asking you to." "But Marcus," Eleanor said firmly, "you helped me when everyone else walked past. You drove me home when you were exhausted, and had every reason to keep walking. You asked for nothing in return." She leaned forward slightly. "Now I'm returning the favor. That's how kindness works. It circles back." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, not pain, but something deeper, something that felt like hope trying to take root in exhausted soil. "Thank you," he whispered. Eleanor reached out, found his uninjured hand, and squeezed it gently. "You're a good person, Marcus Webb. The world needs more people like you." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Eleanor spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "What were you doing out there at midnight, on a bicycle in the rain, delivering food?" "It's one of my jobs." "Jobs, plural, 3 of them, 4 if you count weekends." Eleanor's expression shifted, concern deepening into something sharper. "How old are you?" 19. "And you work 3 jobs." "My grandma needs help with rent and medicine. I dropped out of school to work more hours." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a weight Marcus couldn't quite identify. "What would you do," she said slowly, "if someone offered you a different kind of job, one that paid fairly, one where you didn't have to risk your life on a bicycle in traffic?" Marcus's heart beat faster. "What kind of job?" Eleanor tilted her head slightly. "I need help, Marcus. My eyesight is failing. Macular degeneration. It's been getting worse for months. I have people who work for me, assistants, drivers, staff, but most of them treat me like I'm fragile, like I'm a problem to be managed." She paused. "You didn't treat me that way. You treated me like a person who just needed a hand." Marcus didn't know what to say. Eleanor continued. "I need someone I can trust, someone patient, someone kind, someone who sees me as a human being, not a burden or a charity case. I'd like to offer you a position, part-time at first, helping me navigate my day, reading things I can no longer see clearly, accompanying me to appointments. The pay would be more than all 3 of your current jobs combined." Marcus's mouth went dry. "Are you serious?" "Completely. But, why me?" Eleanor smiled. "Because when I was lost and afraid in that parking garage, you stopped. And that tells me more about your character than any resume ever could." Marcus stared at her, mind racing. This didn't happen to people like him. Good things didn't just fall into your lap when you were a black young man from the South Side, with no diploma and no prospects. But Eleanor Hartwell was sitting beside his hospital bed, offering him a lifeline. "I don't know what to say," Marcus admitted. "Say yes," Eleanor replied simply. "Take the weekend to think about it. Talk to your grandmother. If you're interested, we'll work out the details." She stood carefully, her assistant moving to her side. Get some rest, Marcus, heal. And when you're ready, call me. She left the room as quietly as she'd entered, and Marcus lay in that too-soft hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if maybe, just maybe, his life was about to change. 2 weeks later, Marcus walked through the gleaming lobby of Hartwell Tower for the first time as an employee. His grandmother had cried when he told her about the job offer. Not sad tears, relieved tears, hopeful tears, the kind that came from years of worry finally easing just a little. You take that job, she'd said firmly. You work hard, and you make that woman glad she chose you. So Marcus did. He wore his only dress shirt, wrinkled but clean, and pants his grandmother had ironed twice. His shoes were old but polished. He looked like someone trying very hard to belong in a world that didn't usually let people like him through the door. Eleanor's executive assistant met him in the lobby. Her name was Victoria Chen, mid-30s, sharp-eyed, efficient in the way people who'd attended expensive business schools tended to be. Marcus Webb, she said, extending a hand. Yes, ma'am. Her handshake was firm, professional. Mrs. Hartwell is expecting you. Follow me. They rode the elevator to the 42nd floor in silence. Victoria glanced at Marcus once, her expression carefully neutral, then looked away. The elevator doors opened onto an office suite that looked like something from a magazine Marcus couldn't afford. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern furniture. Art that probably cost more than his grandmother's house. And sitting behind a massive desk, fingers resting lightly on a stack of papers she couldn't read, was Eleanor Hartwell. She turned her head at the sound of footsteps. Marcus? Yes, ma'am. A genuine smile warmed her face. Welcome. Please sit. Marcus sat in the chair across from her desk, feeling simultaneously grateful and terrified. Eleanor folded her hands. I want to be clear about something from the start. This isn't charity. This is a job. I expect professionalism, punctuality, and honesty. In return, I'll treat you with respect and pay you fairly. Are we clear? Yes, ma'am. Good. Victoria will show you the basics, but your primary role is simple. You're my eyes. I need someone to read contracts, emails, reports. Someone to help me navigate spaces I can no longer see clearly. Someone to accompany me to meetings and appointments. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. I can do that. Eleanor nodded. Then let's begin. The first day was overwhelming. Marcus learned the layout of the office. Met staff members who looked at him with thinly veiled curiosity, or in some cases skepticism. A black young man with no college degree, working directly for Eleanor Hartwell. It didn't fit the usual pattern. He read emails aloud to Eleanor, stumbling over technical jargon at first, then finding his rhythm. He organized documents. He learned to describe things precisely, not just what something said but how it looked, where things were positioned. The contract is 12 pages, he'd say. The signature line is at the bottom of page 11. There's a yellow sticky note on page 7 with a question mark in red ink. Eleanor absorbed every detail, trusting him completely. By the end of the first week, Marcus had settled into a routine. He arrived at 8 each morning. Spent 6 hours reading, organizing, accompanying Eleanor to meetings. She treated him like a professional colleague, not a charity case. She asked his opinion on things, listened when he spoke, and slowly something unexpected began to happen. They talked, not just about work, about life. About Eleanor's late husband, who'd built Hartwell Industries from nothing. About Marcus's grandmother, who'd raised him alone after his parents failed him. About loss and resilience, and the strange way life sometimes surprised you. You're very bright, Eleanor told him one afternoon. Why did you really drop out of school? Marcus hesitated. Money. My grandma needed help. That's admirable. But you have a sharp mind, Marcus. It shouldn't go to waste. Can't develop something when you're too busy surviving. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. What if I told you there was a way to do both? Marcus looked up. What do you mean? I mean, what if your job here included time for education, online courses, preparation for your GED, maybe even college eventually? You'd work for me, yes, but you'd also study. Marcus's throat tightened. Why would you do that? Because talent shouldn't be wasted due to circumstance, Eleanor said simply. And because investing in good people is never a bad decision. Something inside Marcus, a hard protective shell built from years of disappointment, began to crack. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Eleanor replied. and then prove me right for believing in you. But not everyone at Hartwell Industries shared Eleanor's faith. The first real sign of trouble came 6 weeks into Marcus's employment. He was reading through a financial report when Victoria entered Eleanor's office, her expression tight. "Mrs. Hartwell, we need to discuss something." Eleanor looked up. "What is it?" Victoria's eyes flicked to Marcus, then back to Eleanor. "The senior management team has raised some concerns. About recent staffing decisions." Eleanor's voice cooled slightly. "Be specific, Victoria." Victoria shifted her weight. "There's been talk about Marcus. Some of the executives feel that his lack of experience and education creates optics issues." "Optics issues," Eleanor repeated flatly. "Yes, questions about whether this position was filled through proper channels, whether qualifications were adequately vetted." Marcus kept his eyes on the report in his lap, but his stomach twisted. Eleanor stood slowly. "Let me be very clear, Victoria. I hired Marcus because he's intelligent, trustworthy and capable. Those are the only qualifications that matter to me." "I understand, but what? Are you suggesting I made a poor hiring decision?" Victoria chose her words carefully. "I'm suggesting that perception matters. That some people might question the appropriateness of this arrangement." "What arrangement?" "A young man helping an elderly woman who can no longer see clearly. Or are we talking about something else?" The air grew heavy. Victoria's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing discomfort beneath. "Mrs. Hartwell, you know I have great respect for you. But I also have a responsibility to alert you when decisions might impact the company's reputation. And you believe hiring a capable young man impacts our reputation negatively. I believe some people might see it that way." Eleanor's jaw tightened. "Then those people are welcome to examine their own prejudices." Marcus stays. "This conversation is over." Victoria left quickly, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The office fell silent. Marcus finally spoke. "I'm causing you problems." "No," Eleanor said firmly. "Other people's narrow thinking is causing problems. That's not the same thing. Maybe I should, if you're about to suggest quitting." "Don't. You've earned your place here, Marcus. And I won't let small-minded people drive away good employees." But the whispers didn't stop. Over the following weeks, Marcus felt the weight of scrutiny every time he walked through the office. Staff members talked in lowered voices when he passed. Some executives looked at him with thinly veiled skepticism. Victoria remained professionally polite, but distant. Marcus endured it all silently. He showed up early, stayed late, did his job flawlessly, never complained, never let the whispers touch his work. Then came the presentation. Eleanor had a critical meeting with potential investors, a pitch that could bring in $30 million for a new community development initiative. The presentation was loaded on a tablet, designed to be projected during the meeting. An hour before the investors arrived, the tablet malfunctioned. Panic rippled through the office. "Can we fix it?" Eleanor asked. "The IT department is working on it," Victoria said, voice tight. "But they're not optimistic." Eleanor's face paled. "This meeting determines whether we can move forward with the entire South Atlanta project. We can't reschedule." Marcus had been listening quietly from the corner of the room. Now he spoke up. "I could present it." Everyone turned to look at him. "What?" Victoria said sharply. "I've reviewed this presentation with Mrs. Hartwell multiple times. I know every slide, every data point, every argument. I could present it from memory." Victoria's expression hardened. "Marcus, this is a $30 million pitch. We can't risk what?" Eleanor interrupted. "Having someone competent deliver the presentation. Or are you worried about how it looks?" Victoria's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Hartwell, these are serious investors. They expect a certain level of professionalism, intelligence, preparation, all of which Marcus possesses." The room went silent. Eleanor turned toward where she knew Marcus was standing. "Can you do this?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then do it." 45 minutes later, Marcus stood in a conference room in front of 6 investors, wealthy, older, predominantly white individuals who looked at him like he was a mistake. He wore a borrowed suit jacket. His hands shook slightly as he gripped a laser pointer he wouldn't actually need, since the slides existed only in his memory. But when he opened his mouth, his voice was steady. "Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Webb, and I'm here representing Hartwell Industries and Mrs. Eleanor Hartwell regarding the South Atlanta Community Development Initiative," he began. He walked them through the entire presentation: market analysis, financial projections, community impact studies, implementation timeline. He cited statistics, answered questions, spoke with clarity and confidence. The investors listened, at first with skepticism, then with interest, then with something that looked like respect. When he finished, the room was quiet. Then the lead investor, a silver-haired man who'd spent the entire presentation looking dubious, leaned back in his chair. "That was impressive," Marcus exhaled slowly. "Thank you, sir. How old are you, son?" 19, sir." 19. The investor shook his head slowly. "And you memorized that entire pitch?" "Yes, sir. It's part of my job. Helping Mrs. Hartwell with materials she can no longer read clearly." Another investor spoke up. "You work for Eleanor?" "Yes, sir." The investors exchanged glances. The lead investor made a note. "We'll be in touch." Back in Eleanor's office, Marcus collapsed into a chair, adrenaline draining away. Eleanor reached across the desk, found his hand, squeezed it. "You were brilliant. I was terrified. You didn't show it. You represented this company beautifully." She paused. "You represented yourself even better." 3 days later the investors called. They were in. $30 million, and in the follow-up call, the lead investor mentioned being particularly impressed by the young man who delivered the presentation with such poise. Victoria brought Eleanor the news personally, her expression complicated. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "Thank you," Eleanor replied. "Please send my gratitude to Marcus. He's the one who made this possible." After Victoria left, Eleanor called Marcus into her office. "You know what you just did, don't you? Gave a presentation." "No. You proved every single person who doubted you completely wrong." Marcus didn't know what to say. Eleanor continued. "That board that questioned my judgment, 3 of them just called to congratulate me on hiring you. The investors want to meet you formally. You've made yourself invaluable." "I just did my job." "Exactly," Eleanor said. "And sometimes that's the most powerful statement you can make." But success always came with complications. 2 months after the investor presentation, Marcus began noticing irregularities. Small things at first. Documents missing from Eleanor's desk. Emails she didn't remember sending. Appointments scheduled without her knowledge. He mentioned it to Eleanor one afternoon. "Has anyone else been accessing your email?" She frowned. "Only Victoria manages my account when I can't read messages myself." "Why?" "Some of these emails, the language doesn't sound like you." Eleanor went very still. "Show me." Marcus pulled up her email, reading several messages aloud. Authorization for expenditures Eleanor hadn't approved. Personnel decisions she hadn't made. Subtle changes to contracts she'd already reviewed. "I never sent these," Eleanor said quietly. "Someone did, using your account." They sat in heavy silence. Finally Eleanor spoke. "How long has this been happening?" "I'm not sure. I only started noticing last week." Eleanor's expression hardened. "We need to investigate this carefully." Quietly, "If someone is manipulating company communications, we need proof before making accusations." Over the next 10 days Marcus paid closer attention. He noticed Victoria staying late when Eleanor had already left. Noticed her accessing files outside her usual responsibilities. Noticed the way she deflected questions about certain decisions. Then Marcus found the deleted folder. He was organizing Eleanor's digital files when he noticed a recently deleted folder labeled Archive Personal. Inside dozens of emails, contract modifications, financial authorizations, all sent from Eleanor's account. All in Victoria's writing style. Marcus's hands shook as he printed everything. He brought the evidence to Eleanor that evening. She listened in silence as he explained what he'd found. When he finished, her face was pale but her voice was steady. "Victoria has been with me for 8 years. I trusted her completely. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. You protected me. You protected this company." She took a deep breath. "We need to involve legal counsel immediately." The confrontation happened the next morning. Eleanor called Victoria into her office. Marcus stood quietly in the corner, holding the printed evidence. Victoria, Eleanor said calmly. I've discovered some troubling irregularities in company communications. Victoria's expression remained professional. What kind of irregularities? Emails sent from my account that I didn't write. Financial decisions made in my name without my authorization. Contract modifications I never approved. A muscle in Victoria's jaw twitched. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. There is, Eleanor interrupted. You've been manipulating my correspondence, taking advantage of my failing eyesight to make decisions you had no authority to make. Victoria's professional mask cracked. That's absurd. We have documentation, Marcus said quietly, holding up the folder. Victoria's eyes snapped to him, and for the first time, Marcus saw real anger there. Hatred even. Of course, Victoria said coldly. This is his doing. He's been looking for ways to undermine me since he arrived. Marcus uncovered your fraud, Eleanor said sharply. Don't blame him for your choices. Fraud. Victoria's voice rose. I've managed this office for 8 years while you've been gradually losing your sight. I've made decisions that needed to be made. Kept things running smoothly. Protected you from your own declining capacity. You mean you took advantage of someone you perceived as weak? Eleanor replied. Her voice like ice. Security entered at Eleanor's signal. Escort Miss Chen from the building. She's terminated immediately. Victoria stood frozen, face flushed with rage and humiliation. You're making a terrible mistake. That young man has manipulated you into thinking you can't function without him. He's using your vulnerability. No, Eleanor said firmly. He's protecting me. Which is more than you ever did. As security led Victoria toward the door, she turned back once, eyes locked on Marcus. You have no idea what you've started, she said quietly. The door closed. Eleanor sank into her chair, suddenly looking exhausted. I'm so tired of trusting the wrong people. Marcus moved to her side. I'm sorry this happened. You have nothing to apologize for. You did exactly what I hired you to do. You helped me see clearly when I couldn't. She found his hand. You're more loyal in 4 months than some people I've known for years. But Victoria's parting words echoed in Marcus's mind. You have no idea what you've started. And he had a sinking feeling she was right. The retaliation began within 48 hours. An anonymous tip to a business news blog suggested Eleanor Hartwell was being manipulated by an unqualified teenage employee. A social media post questioned whether she was mentally competent to run her company. Rumors spread through industry circles that her judgment was failing along with her eyesight. Eleanor tried to ignore it. People talk, let them. But the attacks escalated. Someone leaked a photo of Marcus from his delivery job days, soaking wet, exhausted, clearly struggling, next to a headline. Teen dropout now running billion-dollar company. The article implied Marcus had manipulated a vulnerable elderly woman, suggested the relationship was inappropriate and that Marcus had no formal education. Questioned Eleanor's mental fitness. Marcus saw it during his lunch break. His hands shook as he scrolled through the comments. This young man is taking advantage of her. Where's her family? Someone needs to intervene. Typical. Preying on the elderly. The words hit like physical blows. Eleanor found him an hour later, still staring at his phone. Marcus, he looked up, eyes burning. They're saying I'm scamming you, that I manipulated you. Eleanor's expression tightened. I know, I've seen it. This is destroying your reputation. I should stop. Eleanor said firmly. This is not your fault. This is Victoria, or someone she's working with. They want to discredit you so they can discredit everything you uncovered. But people believe it. Some people will believe anything that confirms their prejudices. Eleanor sat beside him. The question isn't whether we can stop all the talk. The question is whether you're strong enough to weather this storm. Marcus took a shaky breath. I don't know. I do. Eleanor said quietly. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. And I'm not going to let vindictive people destroy you. She stood. I'm scheduling a press statement. I'm going to set the record straight about who you are, what you've done, and why anyone attacking you is either misinformed or malicious. That'll just make things worse for you. Or it'll make things clear. Eleanor's voice softened. You stood beside me when I needed help. Now I'm going to stand beside you. That's what people who care about each other do. The press conference was scheduled for the following Monday. Eleanor stood at a podium outside Hartwell Tower, Marcus beside her, cameras flashing. She spoke without notes, her voice clear and unwavering. My name is Eleanor Hartwell, and I'm here to address recent speculation about my company and my staff. The reporters quieted. 4 months ago, a 19-year-old named Marcus Webb helped me when I was disoriented and alone in a parking garage. He asked for nothing in return. When I offered him employment, he proved himself through intelligence, integrity, and dedication. She paused. Recently I discovered that a senior staff member had been engaging in fraud, manipulating company communications, and taking advantage of my failing eyesight. Marcus uncovered this. He protected this company. And for that he's being attacked. Her voice grew stronger. I want to be clear, Marcus Webb is not a scammer. He's not manipulating me. He's an exceptional young man who deserves every opportunity he's earned. And anyone suggesting otherwise is either misinformed or deliberately cruel. She turned slightly toward Marcus. I trust him completely, and I'm proud to work with him. The cameras flashed furiously. Questions erupted. But Eleanor simply said, "That's all," and stepped away from the podium. Marcus guided her through the crowd, his heart pounding. The story went viral within hours. Some outlets praised Eleanor's loyalty, others doubled down on skepticism. But something else began to happen. People started sharing their own stories. A woman posted, "Marcus delivered food to me during a snowstorm when no one else would. He's genuine." A warehouse supervisor, "This young man worked harder than anyone I've ever seen, never complained. This character assassination is disgusting." A former teacher, "Marcus was one of the brightest students we had. He left school to help his grandmother. That's sacrifice, not manipulation." The narrative slowly began to shift, not everywhere, not completely, but enough that people started asking different questions. Not, is he scamming her? But why are we so quick to assume the worst about a black young man helping an elderly white woman? And in quiet corners of the internet, another conversation emerged, about prejudice, about who gets believed, about the stories we tell ourselves about who deserves opportunities. Marcus read those posts late at night, tears streaming down his face, because for the first time in his life people were fighting for him instead of against him. And that changed something fundamental in how he saw the world. 6 weeks after the press conference, on a quiet Saturday morning, Eleanor called Marcus to her penthouse. "I have something to discuss with you," she said. "Something important." Marcus sat across from her in her living room, a space he'd been in dozens of times but that still felt impossibly elegant. Eleanor folded her hands carefully. "I've been thinking about legacy, about what happens to this company when I'm gone, about what matters most." Marcus's chest tightened. "Are you sick?" No, Eleanor said quickly. "I'm fine, but I'm 73 years old, Marcus. I won't be here forever. And I need to make sure Hartwell Industries continues doing meaningful work after I'm gone." She paused. "I'm establishing a new foundation, the Webb Initiative, dedicated to providing education and employment opportunities for young people who've had to leave school due to economic hardship." Marcus's breath caught. You're naming it after me." "Yes. Because you represent exactly what this work should be about, recognizing potential regardless of circumstances, providing pathways for people the system has failed." Tears burned Marcus's eyes. "I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me build it. Say you'll use your story to help others who are where you were 6 months ago." Marcus wiped his eyes. "Of course. Yes. Absolutely." Eleanor smiled. "Good, because I've already committed initial funding, $2 million. And I'd like you to help design the scholarship program. Who should receive support? What kind of assistance matters most?" Over the following months, Marcus threw himself into the work. He researched scholarship programs, interviewed young people who'd dropped out of school, designed application processes that measured character and potential rather than just grades, created mentorship programs that paired recipients with professionals in their fields of interest. The Webb Initiative launched in the spring. 20 scholarships in the first year, full tuition for GED programs and community college, stipends to replace lost work income, Mentorship and Career Counseling. Marcus attended the first orientation session, standing in front of 20 young men who looked at him with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "My name is Marcus Webb," he began. 8 months ago I was working 3 jobs just to survive. I dropped out of school. I didn't think I had a future." The room was silent. Then someone gave me a chance, not because I had credentials or connections, but because I chose kindness when I could have chosen indifference. He looked at each face. "Every one of you is here because someone saw your potential, because you have something valuable to offer. This scholarship isn't charity, it's an investment, in you, in your future, in the belief that circumstances don't define capability." One girl raised her hand tentatively. "But what if we fail? What if we're not good enough?" Marcus smiled. "Then you'll try again. That's what second chances are for. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep moving forward." After the session, a young man approached him, 16, nervous, eyes darting. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "How did you deal with people saying you didn't deserve your opportunity, saying you were just lucky or manipulating someone?" Marcus studied him. "You're dealing with that?" The young man nodded. "My family thinks this scholarship is suspicious, like there's a catch, and kids at my old school are saying I probably lied on my application." Marcus recognized that fear, that doubt, that weight. "I dealt with it by remembering something Mrs. Hartwell told me: competence and character always win eventually. People who doubt you don't know you. They only know their own prejudices, so you prove them wrong not by arguing, but by succeeding." The boy's shoulders straightened slightly. "Okay, yeah, okay." As he walked away, Eleanor, who'd been listening from across the room, approached Marcus. "You're a natural at this." Marcus shrugged. "I just remember what it felt like." "That's exactly why you're good at it. Empathy matters more than credentials." But even as the Webb initiative grew and flourished, Marcus sometimes felt the lingering sting of doubt. Late at night, scrolling through social media, he'd still see comments questioning whether he'd truly earned his position, whether Eleanor's judgment was sound, whether the scholarship program was genuine or performative. The attacks had lessened, but they hadn't disappeared. One evening, after a particularly brutal comment thread, Marcus sat in Eleanor's office, shoulders slumped. "Does it ever stop bothering you?" he asked. "The people who refuse to believe you deserve what you've achieved." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "No," she said honestly, "it doesn't stop, but it matters less, because eventually you realize their doubt says more about them than it does about you." She reached for his hand. "You've helped 20 young people change their lives this year. You've uncovered fraud that could have destroyed this company. You've represented Hartwell Industries with integrity and intelligence. Those are facts. And facts don't care about other people's opinions." Marcus nodded slowly. "Besides," Eleanor added, "you know what the best revenge is." "What?" "Living well, succeeding, helping others succeed. Every scholarship recipient who graduates is proof that the doubters were wrong." Marcus smiled, despite himself. "Now," Eleanor said, "I have one more thing to discuss with you." She pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. Marcus opened it. Inside, an offer letter. "Director of Community Investment, Hartwell Industries, full-time position." Salary that made his eyes widen. "Benefits, signing bonus. This is contingent on you finishing your GED and enrolling in college." Eleanor said, "You can work part-time while studying, but I want you to have your education, Marcus. It's important." Marcus stared at the letter, overwhelmed. "Why are you doing all this?" Eleanor's expression softened. "Because 8 months ago you helped an old woman find her car. You asked for nothing, expected nothing, and that one act of kindness reminded me why I built this company in the first place: to help people, to create opportunities, to make the world a little less cruel." She paused. "You gave me back my purpose, Marcus. This is me returning the favor." 2 years later, Marcus stood in Eleanor's office on a bright autumn afternoon, diploma in hand. He'd finished his GED 6 months after starting at Hartwell Industries, enrolled at Georgia State University, studied business administration while working part-time as Director of Community Investment, graduated with honors. The Webb initiative had grown from 20 scholarships to 80. Over 100 young people had received support, mentorship, opportunities. Eleanor sat behind her desk, now completely blind but no less sharp. Read me the inscription, she said, gesturing to the diploma. Marcus held it up, though she couldn't see. Georgia State University, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Marcus James Webb, summa cum laude. Eleanor's face broke into a radiant smile. I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't be here without each other. Eleanor corrected. That's how this works. She stood carefully, Marcus moving to her side out of habit. I have something for you. She felt along her desk, found a small box, held it out. Marcus opened it. Inside a key. What's this? The key to the new Web Initiative Center. We broke ground 6 months ago. It opens next month. Education Center, career counseling, job training programs. All because you showed me that investing in people always pays dividends. Marcus's throat tightened. Eleanor, and she continued, the board has approved expanding the scholarship program significantly. $1 million annually. Permanent endowment. The Web Initiative will continue long after both of us are gone. Marcus couldn't speak. Tears blurred his vision.
Eleanor found his shoulder, squeezed gently.
You changed my life, Marcus. That night in the parking garage. You reminded me what matters, and now you're changing hundreds of other lives. That's legacy. 3 months later, at the Web Initiative Center's grand opening, Marcus stood before a crowd of donors, scholarship recipients, community members and press. Eleanor sat in the front row, beaming. Marcus began his speech. 2 years ago I was a high school dropout working night shifts and wondering if I'd ever have a future. Then I made a choice, a simple choice. I helped someone who needed help. He looked at Eleanor. That choice changed everything, not because of what I gained, but because of what I learned. That kindness is never wasted, that people are capable of extraordinary things when given opportunity, that your circumstances don't define your potential. He gestured to the building around them. This center exists because one person believed in me when she had no reason to, and now it's here to pass that belief forward, to tell young people who feel invisible that they matter, that they're seen, that they deserve chances. The crowd applauded. Marcus continued, the Web Initiative has supported 93 young people so far. 30 have graduated from various programs. 42 are currently enrolled in education or training. Every single one of them has a story, has potential, has value. His voice grew stronger, and every single one of them is proof that when we invest in people instead of dismissing them, when we recognize potential instead of focusing on deficits, everyone benefits. Standing ovation. After the ceremony, as people mingled and toured the facility, a young woman approached Marcus. She looked familiar but he couldn't place her. Mr. Webb, yes, I don't know if you remember me. I was in your first scholarship cohort, received funding 2 years ago. Recognition dawned. Maya, you wanted to be a nurse, she smiled. I'm graduating from nursing school next month. Just accepted a position at Grady Hospital. Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. That's incredible. I wanted to thank you. My family thought I was crazy for leaving my retail job to go back to school, but the scholarship made it possible. And your story made me believe it was worth trying. She handed him an envelope. What's this? My first donation to the Web Initiative. It's not much, just $500. But I wanted to pay it forward. Marcus's eyes burned. Maya, you don't have to. I want to. Because someone invested in me. Now I'm investing in the next person. After she walked away, Marcus stood holding that envelope, overwhelmed. Eleanor found him a few minutes later. You look emotional. One of our scholarship recipients just made a donation. She's paying it forward. Eleanor smiled. That's how you know it's working. When the people you help turn around and help others. She took his arm, and they walked slowly through the center together. You know what I think about sometimes, Eleanor said. What? That parking garage. That night, how easily you could have kept walking. How your entire life and mine pivoted on one decision to stop and help. She squeezed his arm. Never underestimate the power of small kindnesses, Marcus. They ripple outward in ways we can't predict. 5 years after that first meeting, Marcus sat in Eleanor's hospital room. She was 97, frail, fading, but her mind was sharp and her hand was warm in his. Tell me what's happening with the initiative, she whispered. Marcus smiled. 247 scholarship recipients so far. 68 have graduated from various programs. 32 are in 4-year universities. 15 have started their own businesses. Eleanor's face glowed. Beautiful. And we've expanded to 3 other cities: Atlanta, Birmingham, Charlotte. The model is working, because you built it with heart, Eleanor murmured. Not just strategy. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Eleanor spoke again, voice barely audible. I need to tell you something. What? When my daughter died, I thought my capacity for love died with her. I thought I'd just be going through motions until I died too. Tears slipped down her cheeks. But then you stopped in that parking garage, and you reminded me that love isn't limited, that caring for people isn't something you run out of, that family isn't just blood. She squeezed his hand weakly. You became my family, Marcus, the son I never had. And loving you, helping you, watching you grow, it healed something in me I thought was broken forever. Marcus's throat closed completely. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead gently to her hand. You saved my life, he whispered. We saved each other, Eleanor replied. That's the truth of it. She died 3 days later, peacefully, surrounded by people who loved her. At her memorial service, over 500 people attended. Business leaders, employees, community members, and dozens of Web Initiative scholarship recipients wearing shirts that read "Because Someone Believed." Marcus delivered the eulogy. Eleanor Hartwell was the most remarkable person I've ever known, he began. Not because of her wealth, not because of her success, but because of her capacity to see people, really see them. He looked out at the crowd. She saw a 19-year-old young man in a parking garage and recognized potential where others would have seen a threat. She saw young people struggling and recognized talent where others saw deficits. She saw a world that often chooses convenience over compassion, and she chose differently. His voice broke slightly. She taught me that kindness isn't weakness, that investing in people always pays dividends, that your legacy isn't what you accumulate, it's what you give away. He held up a photo of Eleanor from her younger days, vibrant and smiling. This woman changed hundreds of lives, but she'd tell you the truth was simpler. She just stopped to help when help was needed. Everything else flowed from that one choice. The service ended with scholarship recipients sharing their stories, young people whose lives had changed because of Eleanor's vision and generosity. A girl studying engineering. She believed in me when my own family didn't. A young man now working as a paramedic. She taught me that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. A young woman opening her own bakery. She showed me that success isn't about stepping on others, it's about lifting them up. 10 years after that first night in the parking garage, Marcus stood in front of the Georgia State Capitol. He was 37 years old, executive director of the Hartwell Foundation, which now operated in 12 cities. The Web Initiative had supported over 800 young people. Graduation rates exceeded 70%. Employment placement rates were even higher. Today he was testifying before a state legislative committee about expanding workforce development programs. Members of the committee, he began. I'm here to talk about investment, not in infrastructure or technology, though those matter. Investment in people. He shared statistics, success stories, economic impact analyses, but he also shared something more personal. I was 19 when someone chose to invest in me. I had no credentials, no connections, just potential that most people couldn't or wouldn't see. He looked each legislator in the eye. That investment didn't just change my life. It created a ripple effect, because I've spent the past decade investing in others, who've invested in still others. That's how communities transform, one person at a time, one act of belief at a time. The committee voted unanimously to fund the expansion. That evening Marcus stood alone in Eleanor's old office, now his office, looking out over Atlanta. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya, the former scholarship recipient who'd made that first $500 donation years ago. Just hired our 10th Web Initiative graduate as a nurse. The circle continues. Thank you for starting this. Marcus smiled. He thought about that rainy night, the parking garage, the frightened elderly woman, the choice he'd made to stop instead of walking past. Such a small moment, such enormous consequences. Someone knocked softly on the door. Marcus turned. A young man stood there, 18, nervous, clutching a folder. Mr. Webb, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Jamal. I just got accepted to the Web Initiative Scholarship Program. They said you might have time to talk." Marcus gestured to a chair. "Of course. Sit down." Jamal sat, hands shaking slightly. I wanted to say thank you. I dropped out of school last year to help my mom. Thought that was it for me. But this scholarship, it's giving me a second chance." Marcus saw himself in this young man, saw the fear and hope and determination. "Can I tell you something, Jamal?" "Yes, sir." 10 years ago, I was exactly where you are. Scared, uncertain, convinced the world had already decided I didn't matter. He leaned forward, but someone saw me differently, saw past my circumstances to my potential, and that changed everything. Jamal's eyes brightened. "Now I'm going to see you the same way. You're not here because of charity. You're here because you have something valuable to offer, and this program exists to help you discover exactly what that is." Jamal's shoulders straightened. "I won't let you down. You couldn't if you tried," Marcus said. "Just keep moving forward. That's all anyone can ask." After Jamal left, Marcus returned to the window. The city stretched out below him, lights flickering to life as evening fell. Somewhere out there, someone was struggling, someone was frightened, someone needed help, and somewhere out there, someone would make the choice to stop, to help, to see another human being and recognize their worth. That choice would ripple outward, creating change no one could predict, building futures no one could imagine. All because someone chose kindness when they could have chosen indifference. Marcus pulled out his phone and opened his photos, found the picture he kept of Eleanor from her final birthday. She was smiling, eyes clouded but spirit bright. "Thank you," he whispered to her image, "for seeing me, for believing in me, for teaching me that the most powerful thing we can do is help others become who they're meant to be." He closed his eyes, and in the quiet of that moment he felt her presence not gone, but transformed into every scholarship awarded, every young person given a second chance, every life touched by the foundation she'd built. Eleanor's legacy wasn't in buildings or bank accounts, it was in people. In Marcus, in Maya, in Jamal, in 800 young people who'd been told they didn't matter but proved otherwise. That legacy would continue, growing, spreading, multiplying, because kindness, real kindness, the kind that sees people clearly and helps without asking for anything in return, never dies. It just keeps moving forward, one person at a time, one moment at a time, one act of belief at a time. And that, Marcus understood, was the only legacy that truly mattered. If you want more emotional, heartwarming stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel where stories of kindness, healing, and second chances come to life through powerful narration. Follow for more touching stories that stay with you long after the video ends. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story that might just change someone's day. Thank you for reading. See you in the next story.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.